What is up, YouTube? Lead the Captain here, back again with another YouTube video on nothing other than Casper. And in today's YouTube video, I am going to be talking about all things Casper. I am going to give an update on Casper, what I think about it, and where I see it moving forward. So let's jump straight into the video. So a lot of people are saying right now, hey, when it comes to Casper, why is it boring? Why is nothing going on? And especially when it comes to the world of cryptos, nothing exciting is happening. But in my opinion, that is absolutely not the case, because I used to think that way. I used to view bear markets as something that's demoralizing, demotivating. I used to view it as boring, and I was like, oh man, I'm underwater on a lot of my investments. What's this all about? I used to zone out. I used to check out. I didn't even want to look at the world of cryptos anymore. Didn't want to look at news, anything like that. But I realized that was a great mistake, and I learned from those mistakes because I realized that a bear market is actually a blessing in disguise. Because first, what I realized was that in a bear market, it actually gave me an opportunity to study more about my favorite crypto projects, learn about its strengths and weaknesses, and just overall understand what the crypto project is all about. And the second thing I realized is that a bear market actually presents an amazing buying opportunity, because the way I think about it is that my favorite crypto projects are at a major discount, and it gives me a chance to accumulate more and more of it. And by accumulating more and more of my favorite crypto projects, including Casper, it allows me to lower down my average cost, which is just amazing in my opinion. I just view this as a generational buying opportunity because, first of all, I truly think that the downside of Casper is not that much from this point on. Yeah, it could go back to 1.5 cents, its ICO price, or even lower, but in my opinion, the risk to reward is extremely amazing because just think about this. Cardano laid dormant for so long, for many, many years. It was hovering around 2 cents, 3 cents, 5 cents, 8 cents, 10 cents, and people were worried about the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month price movement. They were like, oh man, what is Cardano doing? It's not really doing anything. It's boring. It's just kind of essentially flatlining. Then boom, 2021, a massive run going all the way to nearly $3. And that's the thing when it comes to the world of cryptos. Again, things rally, things go up when you least expect them to. It can seem boring, it can seem dormant, it can seem demotivating, but it can just rally at any time. That's the crazy thing when it comes to the world of cryptos. And when I take a look at the price of Casper right now, it really reminds me of Cardano just a couple years ago. Things right now when it comes to the price of Casper, just looking kind of boring, flatlining, teeter-tottering. But in my opinion, much like Cardano, Casper is just going to have a massive pop because I truly view Casper as a strong project with amazing fundamentals and use case and leadership. And if Cardano can have a massive run like that, in my opinion, Casper definitely can as well. In fact, Casper, personally speaking, I think is the best layer 1 blockchain out there, better than Cardano, and in my opinion, also better than Ethereum. And when I take that into account, how I personally believe that Casper is the best layer 1 blockchain out there, I think that the run will happen. It's not a question of if, it's when. It's just a waiting game at this point. We just all have to be patient, but in my opinion, Casper will have that massive run. And in my opinion, Casper will truly shock a lot of people the next bull run. And when it comes to the potential of Casper, the upside is insanely amazing because just think about it. Casper has a market cap of under $200 million, which is absolutely insane. If Casper were just to go to a $1 billion market cap, that is over a 5x from here. And if you take a look at this chart, when you compare Casper to Phantom, Tron, Avalanche, Polkadot, Solana, Cardano, you name it, the potential of Casper is way higher than all of these other blockchains. Because just think about it. If, for example, something like Phantom were to go to a $1 billion market cap, what does it really do? A 20% gain? But if it comes to Casper, that is over a 5x, which is why I personally believe that the risk to reward ratio when it comes to Casper is amazing, and how we are still so early when it comes to the world of Casper, because unlike Kronos, unlike Tron, unlike Avalanche, Casper hasn't popped off yet, which in my opinion makes for an amazing buying opportunity right here, right now when it comes to Casper. And when you look at the staking ratio between top blockchains, you will see that Casper is number 3. It beats out Cardano, Avalanche, Polkadot, Phantom, Near, and Polygon. That's crazy. It's just a hair under Solana. When people talk about the top blockchains, they don't really talk about Casper. In fact, who talks about Casper? Every time I tell anyone about Casper, they're like, what is that? No one has ever even heard about Casper before. And in my opinion, the fact that Casper is relatively under the radar, so to speak, and top 3 when it comes to the staking ratio. That is absolutely insane. It's nuts. People right now are greatly underestimating Casper. Casper right now is top 3 when it comes to the staking ratio, but it's nowhere near the top 10 when it comes to social standing. Not very many people talk about Casper. They don't even view it as something that has true potential. But again, that truly shows how early we are when it comes to Casper, because despite Casper being top 3 when it comes to staking ratio, it is not even top 3 when it comes to social standing. Just think about it. Despite Casper being top 3, people don't even talk about it. And lately, I've heard a lot of people complain about who's building on Casper. They say, hey, why isn't there more companies, more institutions trying to build on Casper? If Casper is so revolutionary, if it's so amazing, why aren't more people building on Casper? But what people fail to understand is that when it comes to these companies, these large institutions that are building on Casper, Casper for the most part is actually in a non-disclosure agreement with many of them. So they just can't reveal out in public who is building on Casper, who they're partnering up with, what developments are going on. They just can't reveal all of that because again, they are in a non-disclosure agreement. They have to keep things confidential. And when you take that into account, you will truly realize how revolutionary Casper is, because if you take into account all the news, all the developments, all the partnerships when it comes to the whole Casper ecosystem, that is just a glimpse. It is not even everything that they have going on. There is more than meets the eye when it comes to Casper. So when people take a look at news, for example, Casper Labs becoming the blockchain of choice for the city of Fuzhou, China, and they also look at, for example, Casper Labs partnering up with the government of Telangana in India. They say, oh wow, that's extremely bullish. That's amazing news when it comes to Casper. They say, wow, that's amazing. That's so bullish for the whole Casper ecosystem. But they don't understand that, hey, that's not even everything that Casper actually has going on. That's what they have revealed. Just imagine what they actually have going on behind the scenes. That truly shows how amazing Casper is. If people think Casper is amazing already, just imagine what they actually have going on behind the scenes. It is way, way better, and most people don't even understand that. Because again, like I mentioned before, Casper for the most part is in a non-disclosure agreement. They have to keep things confidential. They just can't reveal everything they have going on. And let's face it, as of right now, the price of Casper is largely going to be determined by the price of Bitcoin. And when it comes to the price of Bitcoin, I do have some bullish news when it comes to that, which will equal bullish news when it comes to the price of Casper. So let's check it out. And when we take a look at the strength of the US dollar right now, it just keeps going up and up and up. And if you take a look at this chart, historically speaking, every single time the US dollar gains strength, the price of Bitcoin goes down. However, every single time the US dollar loses its strength, the price of Bitcoin always goes up. And when we take a look at the strength of the US dollar right now, it hasn't reached this level ever since the early 2000s. Just imagine that. And if you take that into consideration, we may very well be seeing a peak when it comes to the strength of the US dollar. And every single time the strength of the US dollar peaks, it always has a massive crash, which will be tremendous when it comes to the price of Bitcoin. And when you take into consideration how high the strength of the US dollar is, the fall will be tremendous. And that tremendous fall when it comes to the strength of the US dollar will result in a tremendous rise for Bitcoin and all of the crypto space in general. And when you take that into account, could we very well be seeing one of the most massive runs when it comes to the price of Bitcoin and just the whole crypto economy in general? And in my opinion, yes, I absolutely think so. It is just a matter of time. It will happen eventually. Despite Bitcoin not being at an all-time high price, the amount of Bitcoin holders are at an all-time high. More people now than ever before in the history of Bitcoin believe in it. They understand the future of Bitcoin, and they understand that the future of cryptos are bright. And when you take a look at the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curve, you'll see how oversold we are when it comes to Bitcoin. Because when it comes to Bitcoin's price, we have never reached this far below the bottom yellow line when it comes to the history of Bitcoin's price. Just imagine that. In the history of Bitcoin, we have never ever been this far below the bottom yellow line. The only time we have ever even crossed that bottom yellow line was during that COVID 2020 crash. And we all know what happened after that. Cryptos, along with Bitcoin, had one of the most massive runs ever in history. And when you take into consideration that we are even lower than that COVID 2020 crash point, you will truly understand that the next bull run will be even bigger, in my opinion. And being this far below the yellow line, in my opinion, could signal one of the most massive rallies when it comes to the price of Bitcoin ever. And not only Bitcoin, it is also going to be massive for cryptos such as Casper. So when you take into account that the strength of the US dollar is peaking, the amount of holders when it comes to Bitcoin is at an all-time high, and how oversold we are when it comes to Bitcoin, and when you take into consideration the Bitcoin logarithmic growth curve and how we have never even reached this far below the bottom yellow line, you will truly understand how primed and ready Bitcoin and the whole crypto space is when it comes to the next bull run. The nature of cryptos is that it is so unpredictable and volatile. Rallies can happen at any time, and they happen when people least expect them to do so. My buying strategy, like I always mention in all of my videos, is to dollar cost average. I buy a set amount on a set schedule, and I invest on a routine basis. I'm not worried about the week to week, day to day, month to month price movement. I am focused on the project long term, and I am not trying to day trade, not trying to swing trade, not trying to leverage trade, because believe me, I've tried doing all that, and every single time I did that, I always got wrecked. And what did I realize from all of those experiences? I realized the best strategy, at least personally for me, is to always dollar cost average. And that way it removes all the anxiety, all the guessing, and all of the uncertainty when it comes to trying to day trade, use technical analysis, leverage trade, you name it. And that's been it for today's YouTube video. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the video, and make sure to smash that like button. Also, make sure to click subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on the latest and greatest Casper news and content. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.